Okay, good evening, everybody. Whoa. Okay, welcome everybody to tonight's special committee of the whole meeting of Tuesday, January 21st of 2025. And could we have a roll call, please?
Finkler.
Here. Whoa, everybody sounds weird.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive is excused. Reed. Here. Relke is also excused. Rosted.
Here.
Acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Okay, thank you. Be looking for a motion to approve the agenda of the special committee of the whole.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Finkler. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, any public comment?
There are not.
Okay, thank you. And on to new business, and the first item is discussion on the zoning and subdivision code amendment, RFQ, or RFP. So, Mike, if you would.
Sure. This item was included in the 2025 budget, and the goal of it is the primary goal is really to implement the city's comprehensive plan and to align zoning regulations with that plan. The goal is also to streamline processes and update terms and better organize things in a way that's easier for residents, staff, and developers to understand and follow. The approach here is to send out an RFP, get those, review those proposals with a internal review team that would be made up of the city administrator, the mayor, a plan commission member, myself, and the communications and economic development coordinator. And then that team would score and recommend, take proposals to the plan commission for recommendation to the city council. The idea timeline on this runs across 2 fiscal years, so the idea is to complete the project in 12 to 18 months. And it's both the zoning and subdivision code. Those 2 regulations work hand in hand. And so if this were to, if we were to send this out and execute this tonight, this would, we could potentially get started on this project in May.
I know this has been something that's needed to be done for a long time. We've been talking about it for years. So, questions, Alder Rosted?
I just see it says the release date's going to be today. That would not be correct? RFP release date would not be today?
If it's approved today, it will be released today. It will be released on the date that the city council approves it.
Okay. Thank you.
Alder Lawson.
I identified a handful of like grammatical things which I can show you offline.
Okay.
But some of the questions I have, there's a sentence in here on number 16, page 6 of our packet. It says that the consultant will not be expected to attend public input meetings. Any reason why we wouldn't want them to? I mean,
Cost.
just cost?
Cost. One of the biggest expenditures of a project like this is cost. And the approach that we're proposing here is that they help prepare the materials and that staff leads the public meetings.
Can we try to record that and provide them with the recording then? Sometimes, I mean, there's things that you get firsthand that if they don't get conveyed the same way, you know, can be taken out of
We could
context.
certainly add add, we could certainly change that if you would like to see consultants part of that. If that's the case, we would want to include an element of what their public outreach plan is going to be. So we could add that to the RFP if the council wishes.
Or have a recording that they could watch.
Yeah, there's options.
Yeah.
The other,
Wait, before we move on from that, if you have a recording for them to watch, they're taking the same amount of hours watching the recording as if they attend. So, I guess, I don't want to go on from talking about 16 until we figure that out.
A lot of consultants will also rack up some heavy costs with travel expenses, meals, those sort of things, depending on how they bill. And I understand Mike's intent in trying to limit some of that, and maybe there's a compromise approach obviously their cost is going to be a factor in how proposals are evaluated, and asking them, to map out their public input might be a way to kind of marry the two up.
Yeah, and we could have them attend by Zoom, so then there's no travel costs. They can ask clarifying questions if they need to, and they're taking up the same time as if they were going to review a recording.
It does limit some of where we can hold public input opportunities, though, to go Zoom, because this room is set up. I'm not sure how that necessarily would work well in other venues that we have been holding public input. It makes it a little bit more of a challenge.
Okay.
Another way to kind of have in-person consultants participate in input meetings is you can put an upper limit on the number of input meetings that they attend in person. So that's another way to do that.
Can we just leave the wording a little like loosey-goosey on here? I'm sure, okay, so let me ask, I'm trying to think. Because we're like getting down into the weeds here, and this is the RFP, so, I don't know what, I'd have to think about it, but.
I would
It
like
needs
us
to
to
be
be able
there.
to trust staff to
I'm with you
do
on
their,
that.
to do their job on relaying the information that's taken. I mean, that went very well with well, a number of the community input meetings that we've had. So I would like us just to trust staff with that.
And I hope you appreciate the easiest thing for staff to do is say, consultant, you're required to run public meetings. And by taking that on, I think it's looking at two things. It's looking at keeping costs low. It's also, in every community I've been in, there's been a different view on consultants in terms of, do we trust them? And in a way, this keeps that coordination with our community, with city staff, and the consultant more doing the work behind the scenes. I think there's value in having them involved at the public input meetings, but I also know that not everyone loves, outside consultants, that this is likely going to be this consultant's, or it may be this consultant's only work that they're doing in the city, and it's very different than Jason's 20-plus years of working in the city,
Right.
and how he's viewed. I don't think Jason's doing the zoning rewrite. No.
this effort's a little different than some of the stuff that we've done where, we've had staff take notes and, put them on giant Post-it notes and things like that, because they're the ones then taking that information and working with it. In this case, it's a whole nother set of people, right? So if we're gonna trust staff, that's great, but staff then have to take notes at a more detailed level than they have in the past, because they gotta remember that they're communicating all that. That's all that's going to these consultants, right? So if someone has a concern, and it's a very specific concern, they can't high level that and give it to consultants, they gotta get the detail to the consultants so they can decide what best to do with it.
I'm sure we could have a change order if we really needed to, based on how citizens have showed up to these sessions in the past. If it turns out to be like an immense amount where the staff can't handle it, we can then go back to the consultant and ask them if they would take it over. I don't think there's gonna be that much, like, that the city staff can't handle it and save us the money.
Alder Reed, you want to weigh in on this particular item?
Yeah, thank you. Since we're on this particular sentence, I like the idea of having it loosey-goosey per se, and putting in the phrase, consultant may be requested. I just love leaving it somewhat optional instead of saying not required.
Alder Rosta, do you have an opinion on this?
Nope.
Okay. Well, that particular item, I think there's more that feel to leave that particular sentence loose. Do you want to continue on with what else you
The
have
next item,
there?
yeah.
So,
The other item I have is page 9 of our packet, number 4, the time schedule. So we're telling them to give us a detailed schedule, but then we're telling them it should be approximately 12 months. I mean, if we're hiring the consultants and they're supposed to be the experts, do we need to put a time frame? Is there a reason we're saying 12 months? Or should we leave it open and let them come back with what they propose? Maybe it's 9, maybe it's 15.
I guess I'm open to making it, one, we don't want this dragging on forever, so we wanna put a cap, a high end on it. And also we have funding for 2025, and we'll need to provide funding in 2026. If this would take more than 2 years, I'd be really concerned at that point. You know, after researching the projects on this. But yeah, we can make that more of a range.
Can we?
I'm very comfortable with that.
If that's the case, should we just, instead of sentences here, say we expect the project to be completed by December 31st, 2026?
Sure.
I would feel more comfortable with saying should not exceed X amount of months, and then if they can't do everything, they can let us know what they can do. I'm really worried about it dragging on too. Like, we have a lot to be done, and we want it to get done, and we want it to be streamlined into the most valuable work getting done, and we just don't have a blank check.
And part of this too is there's, in the proposals we are requesting a not to exceed cost. So there's different ways to structure this, and if they can have a not to exceed cost and include some public input in there, and also have additional input meetings can be in addition to that with further negotiations or something like that. It'd be a not to exceed cost hourly, but we want to know what that upper end is going to be for predictability and budgeted standpoint.
any other comments on that particular item?
What are we doing with it? Sorry, I'm not on.
Well, that's why I was looking
Yeah.
for, to see if there
I'm
was
good with
anybody
Molly's
else with comments.
recommendation.
So.
I mean,
Molly's recommendation?
works for me.
Okay, anybody else have anything further? Good, moving this forward then. All right. And next is discussion of the final plat for Cardinal Heights, and Mike, you have that also.
Okay, Cardinal Heights, in your packet, you'll see the final plat that has made adjustments, moving the outlot 1 with the stormwater pond beyond the 50-foot DOT setback. The driveway for the farmhouse now will access O'Brien Court. So the proposal here on the plat is to recommend approval of the plat with the conditions in the review letter and any approvals by state agencies. We met with DOT in January and made very good progress. The MOA, we believe, we're very close, and we're working out the fine language, and we can bring that MOA forward at the February meeting, one of the February meetings. So we feel good about this, and approving this with the conditions listed in your staff report will move this final plat forward to the Department of Administration for their review.
Just to add on to Mike's comments in regards to the MOA, it's clear that the DOT has a lot of concerns about what happens between Avalon and Heritage, and we're tying that to this project. What I've agreed is that we will meet with the DOT and work out a plan on an official mapping exercise between Avalon and Heritage to make sure that we have a plan so that as development occurs, that everyone understands what that plan is, both from city, from a developer, and from a DOT standpoint. So that's going to be likely part of that MOA.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to inquire about parking for the apartments. I wasn't sure if it was mostly underground. I couldn't quite tell where it was going to go.
Yeah, ultimately, we will, that will get reviewed in the site plan review when that apartment building comes forward. But yes, there is parking underground and surface parking in addition.
Okay, Alder Lawson.
I think I'm ready to review. The only question I have is with all these changes in the setback, do we know if the design was impacted to the apartment building?
We have not seen a layout on that because this is the plat. But the developer is comfortable with this layout because they had to do some work to come up with this layout, and they're comfortable with this lot layout.
Okay, Alder Lawson. Oh, sorry, Ross did.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that.
I thought I read in here there was a concern of cul-de-sacing Faith Drive at some point. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what the MOA is about, is finding solutions to potential traffic issues on Park Avenue. And one of the things we came to kind of an agreement with DOT is that we really do not want to come up with the solution until we identify exactly what the problem is. And that's some of the language we talked about in the DOA. Could that potentially be an option? Yes. I think that's I think the likelihood of anything traffic-wise coming out of this development is very low because the traffic volumes on Park Avenue are low. And if anything, there's probably, there's other probably solutions, but ultimately, just not, we want to design a solution if there is a problem and tailor it to that problem. So we ultimately don't really know what it would be. And Jason, do you have any words?
He said it. That's kind of what we talked to the DOT on, was let's agree to find a solution that works for everybody when we have a problem. And so that was kind of the direction we went, instead of having a predetermined solution like closing Faith Drive. And I don't think there's many people that support that. I don't support that. And so DOT understood that and kind of agreed with us that we would word the MOA to have language in to address that there'd be a kind of a fact finding before we had a solution.
Thank you.
Okay, any other further questions on this item? Good, moving it forward? Okay. Then on to discussion of ordinance 2025-1, which is the zoning map amendment for Cardinal Heights plat. And again, Mike.
The Plan Commission recommended approval of the zoning map amendment. Right now, the property is rural development. That's our holding zoning category. The zoning would change with the single-family lots going to R3. That's the higher density version of single-family residential, and the apartment would be R4 with the public outlot as institution, or public.
Okay, any discussion on this item? Hearing none, we good moving this forward? Okay. Okay, then item number 4 is discussion regarding the three-party design engineering services contract with Wisconsin DOT, Fair Graham, and the City of Columbus related to the Tower Drive, Faith Drive, County Trunk K.
So this is a grant-funded DOT project. One of the requirements of the grant is the city put out an RFQ, or I'm sorry, for the QBS process. That's a DOT requirement where you do a quality-based selection for an engineering firm. Our review selected Fair Graham. DOT then negotiates with Fair Graham to put a design contract together. That's what's now before you. The city's responsibility for this contract is $86,044. It's anticipated that this is roughly about a $700,000 project, with the construction being paid 80% by the DOT.
Alder Finkler.
Does this include the blinking pedestrian crosswalk lights that everybody wants?
I'm not gonna say yes or no as they go through the design. That'll be discussions that we have, but this, we're not to that point where it would, I don't know. Jason, do you have anything to add here, or?
Well, it depends which way we face those blinking lights, maybe. No, just kidding.
I'm like, wait a minute, both ways.
No, I think what will happen here, because this is a state project, we will have to determine the need for them, and if there is a determination that they're needed, they may qualify for the funding. If not, it could be something the city could add, but maybe 100% your cost. So I think that once the consultant gets selected, one of the things that's on their list would be to have a scoping meeting with staff and myself, and I think we would kind of go over the project and kind of determine what the issues are that we want them to address. And then that's when they would do their review and come up with a design study report, which ultimately gets approved by the DOT. And so that will be kind of the basis for what's accepted by the DOT and funded. Again, I think we can put in what we need on this project. It may just not fall under the funding level.
Right, okay. Yeah, will you make sure that's included? Because I feel like we've had to bring that up numerous times on this intersection, and we keep being told this project it will be handled under, and now I'm hearing, maybe. So I think we want to make sure that this is part of the conversation, and whether it be funded partially by the grant or all by the city, and we need to have those conversations at that point. I really think we need to not forget about that. I live obviously right near there, and I hear from a lot of people, how dangerous that is for people walking and crossing, and there's a lot of kids that go past there, so I think we really need to let it not be forgotten.
All I'll add is duly noted. I mean, I understand the concern, and I think I'm gonna speak bluntly in that hopefully everyone in the room understands that if we would be following our normal process for design and construction work, that this would already be done. The fact that it took us a year to get a contract from the DOT, because we met on this in January to select Fairgram of last year. And so, I don't hear anything, I send emails, don't hear anything, and the next thing I get is a DocuSign wanting me to sign this contract, and I said, can I actually see it first? And bring it to our council for review. So, it's where we're at in the process, and it's, as I talk with our state representatives, these are the kind of things I talk about in terms of, Jason, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm also going to guess that Rickert Milkie would have been a little bit under this $155,000 that Fairgram is getting for this work. And so it's part of playing the game with the DOT.
Okay, Alder Lawson.
Last page, I think there might be an error in a date. Environmental document says 12/31/2025, but where it's placed, it looks like it's supposed to be 2024.
Well, it's humorous in itself because they're not going to be able to do that work until probably the fall of 2025, but I think you're right.
Okay, any other discussion? Are we good with moving this forward? Okay. All right. The next is to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Rosted to adjourn. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Good to move right into regular council? Okay. Just let me get. Okay, everybody, welcome to Columbus Common Council meeting of Tuesday, January 21st, and also welcome to those that are watching on the cable channel. And with that, a roll call, please.
Finkler.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive is excused. Reed.
Here.
Relke is also excused. Rostad.
Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I acknowledge this meeting was also posted and noticed according to law.
Okay, thank you. And scan over the agenda, and I would look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Lawson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Public comment? None? Okay, thank you. And under first item is the consent agenda, and that would include the special committee of the whole, council and committee of the whole of January 14th, 2025, and then the special committee of the whole and council minutes of January 14th, 2025, and then also mayoral appointments to the Tourism Commission.
So move to approve the consent agenda.
Do you want a second? He actually. was
No,
there first.
he's fine. I have a question, so he's fine.
Okay, well, we need a second
Yep,
first.
second.
Okay. Motion by Alder Lawson, second by Alder Rosted. Discussion, Alder Rosted.
Your appointments, why do we appoint, we just re-up them all? That there's,
The tourism is the only committee where the whole commission gets appointed in
One time.
January at one time, yeah.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, it's, surprised me too when I first had to do that, so. And I think that, I don't know if that has to do because it's through the state statutes or whatever. Yeah, so. Okay, any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda approved. On to item number 3, which is to consider and take action on Resolution 225, preliminary resolution declaring intent to levy special assessments under the municipal police powers pursuant to Section 66.070, discussed at the January 7th meeting, having to do with the Brookside Lane project.
I guess I'll move to approve Resolution 2-25, preliminary resolution declaring intent to levy special assessments under municipal police powers pursuant to Sections 66.0703.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Lawson. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda is item number 4, which is to consider and take action on the Beautification Advisory Board's proposal for the mural at 125 North Dickinson Boulevard.
Reed moves to approve the Beautification Board's proposal for 125 North Dickinson for the mural as presented in the packet.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Reed, second by Alder Rosted. Any further discussion on this item? Alder Rosted.
Did we get any of those questions answered that Sherry presented in the council?
We'll work on them to make sure that we've got that taken care of. I haven't prioritized that over the past 2 weeks as, to me, there are things that we can work through and make sure happen.
Wait.
Any other? All in favor of moving forward on this?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, looking forward to the final product. Item number 5, which is to consider and take action on the City of Columbus purchasing policy and procedures update. Just notice that it's still redlined, but it says January 2024, and no big.
Motion to approve the City of Columbus purchasing policy and procedures as presented.
Second?
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Finkler. Any discussion? Alder Rosted.
As it says presented, do I have to amend it to change the date? Because it's presented 24.
I think Krista will just take care of that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next is number 6, and to consider and take action on the disposal of assets policy update.
Motion to approve the disposal asset policy as presented as well.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Lawson. Discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Then next is item number 7, which is to consider and take action on the fee schedule of 2025. And I know Crystal is here in There have been some updates, but let's entertain a motion first.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 fee schedule as presented in the packet.
Second?
Fix that.
We have a man now.
So however you handle that.
Well, we can discuss now.
Yeah,
right?
this'll
Vote.
still be under the discussion, so can we still have the
I
motion?
get you, I'm following you.
And I forget
Well,
who
we
made,
probably have to amend it.
you shouldn't have to amend, because it'll be
Wait,
under,
here's my little card. Can we just cancel it?
You just vote no, and then make a new amendment, or
We can make the motion, and then as,
motion
with
and
the
the second.
changes as
and-
discussed?
Yes.
Why don't you just withdraw your motion? Why don't you have a discussion? Because it sounds like there's gonna be an awful lot of amending going on.
Okay.
So,
They can withdraw the second.
yes, why don't you all back up about 30 seconds
Right.
and
So
start this over again?
Do you wish to withdraw your amendment, your motion?
I'll withdraw my motion as
Second.
presented.
Yeah, because they said as presented, so
Yes,
that's what problem.
Okay, so.
yes, no,
let's-
I know there's gonna be a
let's
whole bunch of,
Discuss the fees.
The fee schedule you got in your packet, I just handed you one, and everything I changed after that is highlighted in yellow.
Okay.
There's just a couple things that are not highlighted in yellow, and all that is about taxes, about sales tax. Couple things in the center column, but the fees that were adjusted after I gave you your packet, the one in your packet, are the ones that are highlighted in yellow. So there's not too many. If you want to just check those for just a minute. Those were from the last round from all the directors as they got them turned in again. No, just the yellow highlights. I highlighted what I changed in yellow. Well, that's just because it looks big. Well, the biggest one was the cemetery. They had a contract that I wasn't aware of that had been changed, so it was changed to match the contract. And then Amy Jo had a section in the rec center where it was unclear how she had it worded in her memo. And so we were on the phone trying to figure out what she was trying to do there in the recreation section. So what they added in, there's 4 lines, but it's the same thing. It's basically essentially saying if you're renting on a weekend day, which is usually a Saturday, you can opt to buy in and have a half-day Friday and a half-day Sunday. That gives you extra setup and extra tear down. And her explanation was that it will help DPWs clean up if the purchaser has more time to clean up. So it just made sense, and I had to add it to all 4 sections. The other ones were fairly minor. We found a few things that could be eliminated again, and a couple wording changes. And then we made a clarification under zoning, the words for the certificate of appropriateness was missed in the round that we gave you.
I guess I'll start, huh? Page 25, it's a simple fix. Sundays and holidays under the cemetery contract. It's supposed to be a $sign, I think, and not 3,200.
Oh, yep, that should be a $sign. Got it.
And then
$sign?
Page 27, I'm assuming under the pavilion, nonprofit, non-resident, looking at my notes from Amy Jo, I'm assuming half of the 1875 gives us that half-day rental that you added?
It's actually 75% of 1250. Essentially, it's how it works.
Where are we getting the 12? Oh,
The
up on top.
1250 is the rate for pavilion non-resident. The nonprofit gets a 25% discount.
Correct, okay.
Yep.
And then, just a clarification. Page 32, under commercial, commercial early starts, what's all entailed? That it's only a $2 raise, is that enough? Is $2 enough for the staff that's gonna be involved?
I believe you were just rounding it, weren't you?
Yeah, I was taking, I was just.
Okay. As long as you're okay with it, I guess. I was just wondering why it's only a $2 adjustment.
Yeah, in a lot of these, some of these, in some areas of these development-related fees, there's some level of consistency throughout the region. And then when it gets more to the building code type stuff, there's a lot of variety. I did my best to kind of keep us in the middle of the pack.
Perfect, thank you.
And one more note, you'll see that we do, the fee schedule still has the section for sewer. So once the sewer rate case is conducted and it goes through the Public Utilities Commission, then that section can be removed. But it's still intact, so.
Alder Lawson, you have another?
There was a concern about the green space, at Fireman's Park. And I'm not sure if I'm looking at the right thing, but page 29, there's a couple lines at the very end of the park facility section that say Fireman's Park no shelters, Fireman's Park multiple shelters. Is that meant to cover the green space concern?
I believe Amy Jo put in everything she could at this point. If she wants to make an amendment, it'll be a couple months, and if we need to make any more amendments to it, but I believe this is all she had to put in at this point.
So that second line where it says Fireman's Park multiple shelter, that's in addition to the line above, right?
No.
No. So I can rent the entire park, including multiple shelters, for 500, or if I do the entire park without shelters, it's 1,500.
Oh, I answered you wrong. The 500 is the green space, which is outlined in Amy Jo's, well, I'm privy to the information. I sit on that as a liaison, so I have it. I can show you.
On the memo?
Yeah, I can show you.
Well, did I word them wrong then? Pulled the thing off.
A new green space.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We're gonna consider green
Gotcha.
space. So if you want, I'm assuming if you want, I'm assuming if you want the pavilion and this, you have to add them together.
Yeah,
We may
I thought
just
you'd have
wanna
to pay for them both.
have the wording updated, because it looks like you get the Fireman's Park with no shelters for 1,500, and if you want the shelters and Fireman's Park, it's only 500.
Should be a word for large events.
Well,
Yeah, I'm just
yeah,
talking
because
about
the
in the-
$500 was meant to include all shelters and the green space around the cabin.
So you're looking for clarification on the wording the second line.
Yeah, it just, I mean, the way it's written, it looks like,
I-
maybe that's right. Rent the whole park for 1,500 without shelters. Or you rent the whole park and shelters for 500.
Because it
So
says
Ryan, do you believe the intent was that you would be under the first line of Fireman's Park, no shelters for 1,500? The Fireman's Park multiple shelter is in addition to that rate, but only when you are renting the entire park?
No, because what this, I think what, no, I don't want to misspeak though, but in her memo, it says the Recreation Committee is recommending a rental fee of 500 for the use of multiple open shelters in Fireman's Park for a potential large event. This rate would cover the Franklin Shelter, Parkview Shelter, and the concession stand, which is a beer garden, and the green space around the scout cabin. This is believed to help alleviate parking concerns for pavilion events as signs are currently in place directing guests to the park on the left for the pavilion event and to the right to the entrance of the park. So I think what it's about is she has a wedding booked at the pavilion, and I'll use Oddfellows as an example. They want to do their food truck. They can rent section B, which is a green space, for $500.
Oh, so am I missing the words per shelter?
No, because all of them shelters are going to be included
Well, that's
in
what
the
I thought.
green space.
Okay.
I
So
don't see green space anywhere.
that's why I think maybe we need to add on the second line the green space.
So Fireman's Park dash multiple shelters and green space.
Correct.
Designated green space, maybe.
Yep. Her memo just distinguishes the green space around the scout cabin.
Then designated green space would make, that wordage would make sense to have in there.
Because she's going to use this new map that she has drawn up for future rentals.
And that should match the fee schedule. That's what we're trying to do. Okay. You're not gonna stick it in here. She has it in her contracts. This goes in.
But this fee schedule is getting added to the website, correct?
Yes.
So it
yeah.
probably
And then
then
her
should say
contracts would have all this.
Right, but it probably, in that line there, then the multiple shelter with designated green space.
Yep.
So it's-
We'll just add that
Add that.
terminology.
Yeah.
And then she's covered.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm also just very confused on the no shelters versus multiple shelters, and if no shelters is even meant to be an option. I thought we were just talking about separating it, the rental from the main building. So I don't know if, what to do with no shelters. And then the other part, looking back where, page 27, where it's rent weekend add-on, I'm wondering if it should be rent Saturday add-on, since we're just talking about Saturday and adding a half-day Friday, half-day Sunday. And maybe it should say half-day Sunday, so it's not confusing, so people won't go, oh, I can get a special deal that wasn't intended.
Oh, it's, okay. So the wording was meant to be an add-on to your weekend rental. So it is a weekend add-on to your weekend rental.
It's during the weekend, but if you're looking at a half-day Friday, half-day Sunday, it should probably just specify Saturday, but I suppose it's not a big deal. I'm on page 27.
I'm gonna go back to her memo for just a sec. Ryan, do you have any comment? Because her memo doesn't say this is only for Saturday.
No, it's, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but her memo says we are introducing the option for resident pavilion renters to add a half-day Friday and a half-day Sunday for an additional 1,000. So if you want the pavilion, you're gonna pay 3,000 instead of 2,000. That's how I interpret it, right?
Yeah, I worded it the way she explained it.
So Trina, you're saying if they're renting it for a Sunday, then this really, should they have the option to do half-day Saturday? Or,
I'm kind of wondering if that's why it's saying, weekend add-on.
The weekend add-on, to my understanding, is that the add-on is, you already have the Saturday,
The whole weekend.
but you're adding on so that you can set up on Friday, you can tear down on Sunday. So and that,
Okay.
Here's a memo.
Oh, thank you.
I agree with clarifying though, just adding half-day both Friday and Sunday or something like that. So it can be interpreted, I guess, to a half-day Friday and the whole day Sunday. Otherwise, the weekend add-on is just like, hey, I want to add on to my weekend. So I have no concerns with that.
Well, I don't have the exact wording, but we can verify when Amy Jo gets back on how that should be correctly worded, but it is to add on to your weekend so you can have more time.
right.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion or any other statements? Crystal, from you?
Nope, just whatever you need me to explain more.
Do I
I'll
make
try
a-
to.
Oh, sorry, do you have a question, Trina?
Oh, yes, just looking at the note, saying the Kiwanis Park rental would remain $500 a day for the entire park. I'm just,
What page is that on?
it's just looking at a side note.
I know, but what page are you on?
So I'm still looking back at 29 on the part where I'm
29.
confused.
29?
For the Fireman's Park versus no shelters versus Fireman's Park, multiple shelters for 500. I'm just confused on that part on what's getting covered.
No, there is people who rent the park and not the shelters. So we have had that. That's the same fee, the same rentals that we had before. What they're doing is adding on to that and saying, if you're going to be utilizing so much space and renting and being in around the shelters too, you're going to have to pay for them. That's what she wanted to cover by adding the next line.
An example, 4th of July committee rents the park the whole time, but they're also renting the shelters along
And
with that.
before they were
so-
renting the park and getting everything.
Yeah. So that's what that's all about.
So, do I make a motion to approve with a clarification with Amy Jo? Like, where are we at here?
Well, we know what it's supposed to say, we just need the right wording.
Before you go crazy making motions.
Yeah.
Is it going to be your desire, not your intent, but your desire to take one more look at this after all of the changes that you just got done discussing have been incorporated by Crystal so that you can look at it at the next meeting? Or are you gonna try to get this done tonight?
What's the urgency of this, Crystal?
Development fees. And we have park people waiting to put their fee, to pay for their rentals.
Before I make my motion, is anybody concerned with trusting staff to update the fee schedule? I'm not concerned.
Well,
The only-
there's just a couple of clarifications, and then the one, the wording part for the weekend, I think I just need to get the right wording
Yeah.
from Amy Jo. The rest, you've already told me what to change.
Because those are the only,
So
only
that's the
two that
sticker.
are, only two
And
that
I-
are concerned is the park.
And I can get her wording before then, between her and I and Kane communicating, we got this far. So,
We'd be able to make a motion to accept with the corrections provided to Crystal by Amy Jo. And go with that, right?
If you're going to try to finalize this tonight, I think there are two things that are important. The first thing is to identify the document that you're actually looking at, not the document that was in your packet,
Okay.
but the document that you have in your hand. And I'm not sure how to do that, because I don't know what that should be called. And then the second thing is, how do you want, if you just want to let staff make the final corrections based on your conversation, that's okay with me. If you have the confidence that everybody's on the same page between all of you.
All right. Well, I'll just throw it out there and I'll try. I'll move to approve with discussed modifications the City of Columbus 2025 fee schedule that was handed out in the meeting.
As good as anything else.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Rossed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yay. Okay, then next on the agenda is item number 8, and that is to consider and take action on the zoning and subdivision code amendment, RFP.
I'll move to approve the zoning and subdivision code amendment request for proposals.
Second.
Motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Rossed. Any further discussion?
Yeah,
Alder Lawson.
one comment. So I know I've found a couple grammatical things. Do you want to address that in your motion?
They haven't been discussed yet, so.
that's why I'm looking at Cookie Johnson like, I don't know what to say.
Me neither. So,
Well, they almost
They,
have to
they,
do.
they had like no impact on the intent on anything. They were really minor
then,
things.
I don't know what even to tell you.
So
I
I've seen this before. This was an every meeting occurrence in a previous community. And what they would do is just, there was an understanding that the council member that caught the grammatical errors was gonna share that with the staff, and staff would make the appropriate corrections to address that issue.
So we have the motion in the second on the table. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And next is to consider and take action on the Cardinal Heights final plat.
Motion to approve the Cardinal Heights final plat as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Lawson. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next is to consider and take action on ordinance 2025-1, which is for the zoning map amendment of Cardinal Heights plat.
I'll move to approve ordinance 2025-1, the zoning map amendment.
One note here is that we didn't get this correctly listed under ordinances, and so you're gonna wanna do your repeal, suspend the rules and waive the readings.
Okay.
Unless you want it to come back at the next meeting for a second reading.
We discussed it, I think we can move forward with that. So first item would be to suspend the rules. So, okay, I would look for a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Lawson to suspend the rules. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next would be a motion to waive the readings.
I'll move to waive the reading.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler and a second by Alder Lawson to waive the reading. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then next would be to, okay, how do we word this next? Okay. Okay, look for a motion to approve ordinance 2025-1, which is the zoning map amendment of Cardinal Heights plat.
I'll move to approve the ordinance 2025-1 zoning map amendment of Cardinal Heights plat.
I'll second.
A motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Lawson. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Then next on the agenda would be to consider and take action on the three-party design engineering services contract with Wisconsin DOT, Fair Graham, and the City of Columbus related to the Tower Drive project from Faith Drive to County Trunk K.
Do we need an amount for that one?
Yeah, where is that? In the amount not to exceed, where was that now?
City's
City's-
responsibility would be $86,044.
Okay, $86,044.
I'll move to approve the three-party design engineering services contract with DOT, Fair Graham, and City of Columbus related to Tower Drive, not to exceed $86,044.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Rosted. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call.
Lawson,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Rosted,
Aye.
Finkler.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 4-0.
Okay, thank you. Then next would be to consider and take action on the claims in the amount of $2,759,286.01.
I'll move to pay the claims in the amount of $2,759,286.01.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Lawson, second by Alder Finkler. Just a note that I had talked to Crystal about as I was going through these. I saw where it said tax refund. It's actually a tax overpayment refund. For instance, when a bank or whatever pays off the the taxes or such, so this is what that refund is. So, any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor? Oh, roll call, yes.
Finkler.
Aye.
Rostad.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Lawson.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 4-0.
Okay, and reports of city officers. Matt?
I have nothing this evening.
Okay. Just would like to extend my prayers, our prayers and thoughts to the Roger Venden family. Roger served on the Utility Commission several years ago and was a very good commissioner. And not to mention all the time that he put in with the 4th of July committee. There's that whole celebration is very successful because of Roger and his team. So, and then on February 5th, I will be attending the Municipal Electric Utility of Wisconsin's legislative rally at the state capitol, meet with our representatives on items that affect the electric industry for municipals. With that, then I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Finkler, second by Rosted to adjourn. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Anybody need a break? Okay, we'll move right on into the Committee of the Whole. Let me get situated here. There we go. Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, January 21st. And welcome to those that are also watching on cable channel. Could I have a roll call, please?
Finkler.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive is excused. Reed.
Here.
Relke is also excused. Rostad.
Here.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Okay, would look for a motion to approve the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting.
So move.
Second?
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Reed. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. In your packet is department reports on file for the fire department of December of 2024, the library for December of 2024, and Life Star for November of 2024. Any public comment?
There is also police department report from December of 2024.
Okay. It wasn't on the, where was the amendment? Okay, thank you. All right. And no public comment. Okay, thank you. Under new business is to discuss the Zion Lutheran conditional use permit, and Mike and Jason.
Yeah, this proposal's for the expansion of Zion Lutheran School to include classrooms and a gymnasium in 2 different phases. The property has residential around it and a nursing home in the nearby area. The new building is on the north end of the property, which will cut off or change internal circulation. One of the conditions we're suggesting is the additional hydrant in the middle portion of the site because of where the hydrants are, and any other recommendations by the fire chief on those items. Their proposal is will need to meet all ordinances and the new stormwater ordinance as well. Let's see what else I have here. Essentially, there's 8 suggested conditions in the staff report there. But the plan came in, the proposed application came in and was a pretty good start on the site plan, and just need to bring a few more things forward that staff can review. Jason, anything?
Nope, I think Mike covered everything.
And Plan Commission.
And Plan Commission recommended
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 so.
these, actually recommended approval of the CUP with the conditions in
Yep.
in the report.
Any discussion or questions for anybody? Right, good to move this forward? Excellent. Thank you. Next on the agenda is discussion regarding committees, committee structure, and meeting dates.
I don't know what just happened. Excuse me. All right. I laid out a bunch of things in the memo. The basis of this discussion is to give Paul some direction in terms of should any amendments be made to our committee structure ordinance and brought back for further discussion. So rather than having Paul and I try and take a stab at rewriting the ordinance, trying to have this discussion on the front end, some of this may move forward, you may think is a good idea, some may not. I'll just start that, kind of the goals are reduced need frequency of committee of the whole, as we've previously discussed. Align our committees' similarity in their role, design, and function. Streamline and or add committees that may be needed. And to consider the move of council meetings to Wednesday nights, eliminating conflict with elections, and also some other tangible benefits. Those being, obviously Memorial Day and Labor Day, we tend to meet the day after. Giving another day would help. Anytime we have an election, they tend to be either the first or third Tuesday. As you'll see in a later agenda item, we're proposing to move those to the following Wednesdays. I'm confident that a Wednesday night has no holiday conflicts unless the 4th of July would fall on that Wednesday. I get it's a big change. I know that a lot of you met Kevin Brunner during the recruitment process. Kevin actually left city government because of council meetings on Tuesday nights, so he could watch his kids play high school sports. I'm not saying that's what I'm going to do, but I also believe that I'm not probably the only person that is impacted by that, and that's not the sole reason, but there are some other benefits, I think, in looking at Wednesday. Other items that I go on to talk about is the thought that an item needs to go to a committee before it would come to council. We'd leave the flexibility that there may be some items that come up that wouldn't necessarily go to a committee, but then the mayor, council president, and administrator would need to agree that those don't need to go to a committee to be placed on a council agenda. Council agenda would continue to identify a committee and date that the item went to a committee. Right now, we do that with COW and showing the date it went to COW. The concept would be is that something that went to Plan Commission would show the date that it went, the committee it went to, and the date that it was there. Streamlining committee appointments to be made at the first council meeting in May, and that vacancies would be dealt with throughout the year. Obviously, if we had a mayoral change, that would be a challenge, but this is kind of a concept of a goal. Also, we'll have to take a look at the tourism, if that is a state requirement that they be done in January, or is that something we could align locally to occur in May. That each committee should have a council appointment and a staff liaison, that the council appointment be a voting member of the body, and that the staff liaison serve as the secretary and work with the chair to create agendas, and that the staff member is a non-voting member of the committee. Each committee should hold an organizational meeting in May to identify chair, vice chair, as well as other appointments to committees. Utility Commission should designate supervision of staff to the utility director, and the commission should serve as an appeals board for any grievance. This would be a similar structure to that of the Police and Fire Commission, and so that the day-to-day duties that the fire and police chief have would have the same kind of responsibilities with the utility director.
And it's not that way now? It always was that way. So, where the utility director has supervision of staff. I mean, that's,
Well, the utility director has supervision of staff,
yeah.
right? But,
Well, it says the utility commission should designate the supervision of staff to the utility director, and my understanding is the utility director has always had supervision of the staff.
I would have to look to see what your ordinance actually says.
Okay.
I think that's correct, that the director has oversight of that, but,
It's different than what you recently told me.
and again, well, yes, let me just look.
Um,
I really hate your utility ordinance, by the way.
Going into the committee structure, so Beautification Advisory Board, I talk a little bit later about new committees, and we'll come back to that. The Board of Review is currently made up of 5 residents. Cable Television Commission is 4 residents and a council member. The Aquatic Center Advisory Board is 5 residents, the mayor and a council member. Community Development Authority, 5 residents and 2 council. Ethics Committee is the mayor and the council. The Investment Board, I recommend making that as part of the new personnel, that those responsibilities become part of the new Personnel and Finance Committee. I question whether the Ordinance Review Ad Hoc Committee is needed. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, I recommend changing to the Recreation Advisory Board and having parks handled by the new Public Works Committee. Plan Commission, stay the same. Senior Citizens Advisory Board would stay the same. Streetlight Committee would consider including those duties as part of the Public Works Committee. Tourism, 4 residents, mayor and council. Utility Commission, 5 residents, mayor and council. Zoning Board of Appeals is 5 residents. As referenced, the new committees, the Public Works Committee would be comprised of 3 council members and 4 residents, which would be the current Beautification Advisory Board members. The Personnel and Finance Committee would be 3 council members and 2 residents. Currently, committees with no proposed changes to structure would be the Cemetery Group that we're working on separately, Historic Landmarks Preservation Commission, the Joint Review Board, the Library Board, Police and Fire Commission. Okay. Proposed meeting calendar. Currently, Recreation and Tourism both meet on the second Monday, trying to split that up so that they each have a designated Monday to meet. Showing that the Finance Committee would meet at 6 on the first week of the month prior to the council meeting. That Public Works would meet on the 3rd Wednesday prior to the council meeting. And the rest of this is all kind of standard of what currently happens. What I'm looking for is feedback, thoughts, telling me I'm crazy, or, you know, does this have merit, and things that you'd like to see come back in terms of a revised ordinance?
I'm sorry. Alder Finkler.
Yeah, I like the change to Wednesdays. I myself was very frustrated missing out on my daughter's varsity volleyball games, especially on parents' night when she didn't have a parent there. So that kind of sucked. So I'm good with that, and I do like the idea of moving us to committee-based and then going to council for the decision-making. I have heard a lot of positive feedback on that structure based on other communities that have done that. Oh, and I also agree that we probably don't need the ordinance review ad hoc committee. As a member that was on that and spent many, many hours on something I didn't need to.
Trina, did you have your?
Oh, I
light
did.
on?
Thank you. Yeah, there's so much in here, I don't even quite know where to start. I personally prefer staying with Tuesdays. I'll have way more things impacted on Wednesdays for events missing out, and for my work, I have meetings already on that same Wednesday. I'll be able to make it, but it'll be tight. For the beautification advisory board, I don't know if those would be the same interested people as those that would be interested in public works, although beautification often needs to coordinate with public works for installing different kinds of things, so I understand why those are being considered to be put together. I'm fine with the idea of the different committees having the first go around and then things coming to the committee of the whole. I do not want to see the committee of the whole being extinguished. Mostly just because I like giving the public time for finding out about something when we talk about it during the committee of the whole, and then being able to give feedback, within 2 weeks. I find that so important for being more transparent and letting people have a voice. The way we have the agenda set up now, where when you go on the agenda, you have to click on every individual item. And I don't think that's to be secretive whatsoever, but it makes it really, really hard for anyone that doesn't have to look at every single thing in the agenda to find out what's going on, because again, it's not right there when you open it. So I think that makes having an extra time, a little padding, very important.
All the rest.
I would prefer to stay on Tuesdays. Have we looked at the option of the second and the fourth Tuesday compared to the non-conflict with elections?
Haven't, but that would address that issue.
And then,
Except for November, December.
I'm not the structure, I'm not a fan of setting a time for finance and public works the way it's laid out here. Public works, you have the beautification advisory people to be added to that. And they're also gonna take on the parks side of the recreation. I think there's a lot of stuff possibly to discuss in a half hour. I don't think we want to limit their time to conduct business. Would be a concern of mine. I would have to echo Alder Reed about the beautification committee. I'm not sure we want to throw that into the public works right now with what's going on with public works. I think we need to handle that and address that first.
I just would prefer to address that comment. We don't currently have a public works committee. And essentially the council serves as the public works committee. And I think it's critical that we find a way to have a public works committee that reviews public works projects, park improvement projects, because those things currently are just coming straight to council. And getting a more detailed view of those things, getting feedback on those items. Though I don't see that committee is going to deal with personnel issues or things of that nature.
Okay, and then just some clarification on the role of the liaison. I'm assuming the council is the liaison, correct? Just labeled council?
Yeah, the council member would serve as the liaison from the council to the committees, as in most cases they currently do, just being consistent with that. Because there is some variations.
Correct, and that's another thing. Do we need to address those variations? do we believe that a liaison should be a chair of a committee? Should we have,
My inclination is that it doesn't designate the council liaison as the chair. If the committee decides to elect the council liaison as the chair of the committee, that's the committee's discretion, but it doesn't automatically define it that way.
I just think it's,
And again, part of this exercise is, rather than looking at each and every committee structure, it's trying to say, these are the things that we think should be consistent across the board, and then have Paul rework the ordinance to reflect that, so that there is consistency from one committee to the next.
So with the council liaison, does that person vote? Yes or no? Is that person in charge, is that person by rule the chair of the committee? That is also an issue. And it can be handled, as Matt said, or it can be just written in that whoever that liaison is in charge of the committee. And then your code right now, I mean, you have liaisons to all these committees, but there's really no definition as to what that is supposed to be. What's the duty of a liaison? A liaison goes to all the meetings, allegedly, or presumably, or hopefully. But do they sit in the back corner and answer questions if necessary, or are they active participants, you know? Or do you do away with the liaison altogether and just make a council member one of the voting members of each committee, and then you address it that way? I mean, that's another option that you have.
and then to address Trina's transparency, can these all be televised? These new committees, when we get to that point?
We can take a look at what the impact of televising additional meetings would be, but I think we have to also factor in that there's a staff component to that.
Anything else?
And the only other thing I would add is I think it's on a different agenda item, let me check. I'll mention it here, but it's gonna be added to number 4. I think so we add 3 dates to item 4, National Night Out, is a Tuesday night as well, I believe.
Yes.
That's all I got.
Okay, Alder Lawson?
Okay, when you say that some items are not required to go through a committee, they can go right to council, as determined by the mayor, council president, and administrator. So you're saying if those 3 individuals agree, and only if they agree?
My thought was, and I can't come up with an example of something that would come up that doesn't have a committee to go to, right? And we all 3 agree, yeah, that there's no committee that needs to go to council, that would go to council. And whether it's 2 out of the 3, all 3, I mean, that's something that.
The, last week, when Susan needed the council to approve moving the polling location, right? What committee would that go to?
There isn't.
Right, so that's something.
Yeah.
The 3 of you would get together and go, yep, we can take that right to council. That's the only thing I could come up with these additional, committees, so, okay. I agree that we need a public works committee. I think using the beautification advisory board folks to start that is an interesting idea. I'm not against it. I'm part of that committee. I think if you did that, you'd want to communicate the changes and, inform them, allow them to decide whether they want to stay or not. I think the investment board as part of the new personnel and finance committee totally makes sense. I agree with getting rid of the ordinance review ad hoc committee, and the streetlight committee. Moving those makes sense. The senior citizen advisory board is one that I struggle with because in that committee now, we seem to talk less about senior topics sometimes and more about the community center. And since it's not the senior center anymore, do we really want to change the committee to be the community center committee? Or should we be more focused on the senior aspect of it? So one of those things probably should happen. And then the new committees, you have 3 council members on, but none of the other committees are yeah, none of the other committees have more than 2. There's some that have a council member and a mayor, or 2 council members. So I'm just wondering, is there a reason to have 3?
Because 90% of what goes to the committee of whole would go to the either the Personnel and Finance Committee or the Public Works Committee was my thought. And that essentially you're keeping in place the cow, but you're giving it actual purpose and intent. You're also giving value to the Recreation Committee, the Plan Commission, because what you're saying as a council is, we trust you, Recreation Committee, we trust you, Plan Commission, that you've thoroughly looked at this, you've done the work. It's a way to engage citizens in that your citizens now feel they have, if I was a citizen member of our current committees, why do we have the committee? Anything we talk about goes to the cow, gets beat up by the cow, and then goes to the council. And this is a way of me telling, of us telling our committees, we want our citizens involved in our government, and we trust you to do the work and give value to your role as a committee member.
But we don't trust you if you're on the Public Works Committee.
No, the Public Works Committee is, well, I guess, are you saying it should just have 1 council member?
No, I think 2, like some of the other ones.
Okay.
You know, I think 3 is a bit much. I mean, you get to that point where soon you're going to have a walking quorum.
I mean, it's a structure that other communities do, is they have, I don't know if you want to call them super committees or things like that, but they typically meet before the council meets, and that they're more comprised of council members than those committees have more council members than some of the other committees. I'm not saying it's right, wrong. I don't have a preference one way or another. I was trying to not completely lose the sense of cow, but where I get frustrated is we have so many things that go to Plan Commission that then go to Committee of the Whole and then go to Council. And I think it lessens the role that Plan Commission is supposed to play.
Yeah, agreed. And a lot of these committees are supposed to play. And I think going back to your discussion on the roles, right? I kind of think that the liaison, or don't call it a liaison, but the council members or mayor that is on these commissions should not be the chair. That it should be one of the residents in a lot of these cases. That we should not be permitted to be chair. So that it even empowers the public more. I also think the meetings before the council meetings on Wednesday. I'm okay with council meetings being on Wednesday. I just don't think the finance or public works right before the council meeting is a great idea. I think that was all I had.
Well, obviously, this is going to take, some time to go through. And we all need to, take this back and really look it over.
My suggestion at
just-
this point is to bring it back to the next cow with, taking what we've heard tonight, but also then hopefully having more of a full council to have further discussion on
Right.
where we're at.
But just something that I happened to grab, for the streetlight committee is, would make more sense to leave it with the utility commission, because the utility commission is gonna be the one telling the crews to put the lights up, so,
we have the
agree
blue
with
light
getting
back?
rid of the ordinance ad hoc committee. That was frustrating at times. Obviously, we used to have a public works board years back. And why it ever got disbanded, I don't know, because a lot of the stuff was handled at the public works board, and then bringing it to council made everything go that much smoother. I don't know, I mean, you definitely would have to talk to the members of the beautification advisory. I mean, they're just, getting going, getting things, a lot of positive things happening. I would hate to lose the momentum that group has.
Part of,
So,
part of my reasoning too is, they weren't able to meet quorum in January. They know they're not gonna have quorum in February. And so I'm trying to keep the positive work that they're doing and keep that moving forward, knowing that they've had 2 recent resignations from their board as well.
Alder Finkler, you had another comment?
Yeah, I agree that the council liaison should not be, the chair. I agree with that. I also think that being somebody that's part of the utility commission and the plan commission, and I see a lot of items numerous times in a row, I can definitely sympathize with, we need to trust our committees. I'm just saying, there's a lot of really intelligent, smart, experienced people on those committees. Way more than most of us up here, except for Joe and the Utility Commission, probably. So I'm just saying, when the stuff came up today, I wasn't at the last Plan Commission meeting. I'm part of the Plan Commission. I knew immediately that I was okay with the review that the Plan Commission did on the topics that were on the agenda tonight because of who is on that Plan Commission. So I think even if this is a change, I advocate that we put trust in the committees and maybe, there needs to be a training or something like that, or a town hall or something like that with the committees and commissions, and really pointing out to them, you guys now are the ones that, are going to be taking the decisions right to council, and really enforcing that their role and what they need, and making sure that we have the right people on there. Speaking of that, I'm a little hesitant about the Public Works Committee being only beautification committee members and council members. I think maybe there's a different balance that we can do there. I'm also not concerned about there being 3 council members on the Public Works Committee, and Public Works Committee, that maybe could be 2, but the Personnel and Finance Committee, I would like there to be 3 there. I know we're close to a walking quorum, but we're not a walking quorum, and those are pretty big topics that I feel like we would like to have more members from the council there. The other thing I would like to maybe call out, and I myself responded from a personal opinion, is the date that these committees and commissions are. I ask that we maybe take back and reflect, and not necessarily make it about us, and I'm including myself, but what's best for the city. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And I think that was it I had.
Okay, well, definitely, I mean, we all need to, go back, just look everything over, write down, comments, concerns. Obviously, you can email everything to Matt too, because work obviously needs to be done with it. Alder Lawson, you have another?
Yeah,
comment,
just one
so.
thing, terms, I think some of the committees have different terms where, someone serves, 3 years versus 2 years or 1 year. Is there a way to standardize, or are some of those required by statute somewhere? I don't know.
Some are, but most are not.
Certain terms, for instance, Utility Commission has a 5-year term, which is, it's good to see because to get the consistency in learning about utility work, and if you have a shorter term, it's like training somebody all over again, and which is why it's nice to have that 5-year term on that particular one. But it also means a commitment out of that person too, so. Okay, any other discussion on this yet tonight? If not, write down any other questions or things that you have and bring it forward at another meeting, so. Okay. Next then would be discussion regarding the date changes for the future council meetings on February 18th and April 1st. Now, I know National Night Out is one of them. It's not on the agenda, so August, first Tuesday in August, right? So, I mean, it's no big deal to bring at a later meeting too, so.
If you want to discuss it tonight and provide direction to include it at the next council meeting, I think that's the beauty of
Okay,
the current committee of the whole process.
sure.
I think we just move these dates forward.
And it would be the Wednesday that you're looking at for these two. So February 19th and April 2nd. Pardon?
The primary in February is the state school superintendent race. There's 3 candidates.
Well, I'll be one of them, so. So we're looking at February 19th and April 2nd, which would be the Wednesday after, and that works out very well for Susan, so.
If we're bringing this back next time, why don't we just add National Night Out too?
And we can, yeah.
I
Okay.
think the last time this type of thing went through council, the council at the time decided not to take action on items that were passed when elections were, because it could be a new council.
It's National Night Out. Not very controversial.
No, not controversial, but schedule.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, and that does make sense for that particular, so. Yeah, there is, yeah. So right now, let's concentrate then on moving February 18th to the 19th and April 2nd, 1st to April 2nd. So any other discussion on that? We're good moving that forward? All right. And next on the agenda is discussion regarding the redevelopment options for Tower Drive with Vanderwall Professional Services and Mike.
We had a little bit of discussion of this previously. So this is a slightly revised process that includes an element of public participation where Vanderwall Services would help to provide some concept drawings regarding form and density. And staff would hold a public information meeting and bring that information back to Van de Waal for revisions for that proposal to bring forward to the council, and ultimately develop an RFP process for the development of Tower Drive based on council input and public input. The idea on this is to do some front-end input and get buy-in from the public, and also create some predictability for developers, that there's support for a certain type of, certain style development, density type for the property, and for which they can address and modify their proposal to what is desired by the community. This type of approach is common in other communities. Our visioning tools for development include our comprehensive plan. This is similar to kind of a more of a refinement of what our community vision is for a particular piece of property. And this kind of concept has worked well in other communities.
Alder Lawson.
So Van de Waal, under task 4, is actually developing the RFQ?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Alder Rustin?
I was just gonna ask that. I see the RFP is mentioned, but not the RFQ, so it is gonna be RFQ, correct? Or do we deviate off of that?
Well, I guess it says RFQ. It says RFQ in the task. A lot of these things are blended together. It's a request for qualifications along with a proposal on.
The RFQ is going to include a drawing that we've gotten community input. So what I believe what this is saying, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, is Van de Waal's going to give 3 options of what could go on that site. We're going to take those to a public meeting, get feedback, bring that feedback to the council, and have the council endorse one of those 3 concepts based on the feedback we got. The RFQ is going to go out with that concept. And the idea is that we're going to select a developer based on that concept and the fact that they've developed a similar concept or that concept in another community with success.
Correct, right.
Okay.
Alder Finkler?
I know this had originally come to Plan Commission, and I was very vocal against it. The original plan that came to Plan Commission was for an RFP, is that right? I can't remember.
Really, the only thing that's changed in this is a clarification on task 3 on the number of concepts and adding the staff facilitated public information meeting concept.
Okay. I guess I guess I don't know a lot about Van de Waal and Associates and their qualifications, and I also don't have a lot of experience or any at all on a request for qualifications. A lot of my experience that I have in my day job is on requests for proposals, and you get back those proposals. What is the benefit to having Van de Waal and Associates telling us what to put on that place in that property or giving us the options versus a developer?
So, it's a good question. The problem with putting on an RFP on this property is you're going to have one developer who comes and wants to propose single-family homes. You're going to have the next developer who's going to do townhouses. The next developer is going to do an apartment building and some combination of single-family homes or townhomes. What this process does is it defines what we want. And then we're gonna select a developer based on their ability to develop what we want to build. We're trying to avoid another knockdown, drag-out fight like the Dingy Farm was. That's the difference between RFP, RFQ, and what we're proposing here. In terms of Vanderwall, there's planning firms out there and there's Vanderwall. That they're simply the best in terms of residential development. They do this work throughout the Midwest. They're an extremely reputable, well-regarded planning firm.
Okay. I think we could have avoided the problem with the Dingy property in wording in an RFP too. I guess where I'm struggling is we could still have listening sessions with the citizens. We can still discuss as a council, do we want it to be single-family homes? Do we want it to be townhomes? Do we want it to be an apartment? We can have those conversations based off of I know we've had many conversations around budgeting and what we need to help our tax base. And we've had some of those conversations already. And we would be able to marry those conversations in with the ones on what the council, along with a strategic plan or what all these other plans we have that we've already spent time on creating and stuff like that, and come up with specifically what we want. You can create an RFP that only allows single-family homes. You can create one that only allows townhomes, or a mixture of the two. I feel like since I've been on council, we've just been hemorrhaging a lot of money on studies and I know in the past that has been a big concern with the citizens is studies and everything that we're spending money on, and we haven't seen a fruition of it yet. So I just want to make sure that like I can justify this if somebody comes to me and says, hey, why do you need $12,500 to do this when you guys could decide if you want single family homes and create an RFP and have developers come back and give us the plans. They spend the money creating the plans for single family home and we're not out $12,500.
I guess an answer that I would have for that is the success that other communities are having is because they are doing this type of stuff. If you know, a bigger city might have the staff on hand where, you know, that they can put together the, all the graphics that you need. But that's the benefit of having Vanderwall whose expertise is in this. And then there are firms out there that follow Vanderwall. So they see that that they've been working on this. You tend to get the interest of those people that are associated with it.
So we'd be paying $12,500 essentially for the Vanderwall's name and the reputation that they have to develop it. Because what I'm saying is, we wouldn't be creating any of the graphics for an RFP. We would be saying what we want, and the developers would be creating the graphics, and they would be coming back to us. Instead, we're paying for the money up front to define what we want. We're just doing it backwards, and I guess I'm just trying to understand what the benefit is to us paying for the plans versus the developer paying for the plans.
What Vanderwall would say, and Mike, feel free to jump in here because I know you've had more of these conversations than I have, is the developers are sick of spending money on things that they don't know that the city wants. And by us deciding what we want and telling the development community what it is we want, that you may attract more developers interested in a project because you've already determined this is the type of development you want on this site. And, you know, the other thing is, keep doing things the same way and expect different results. I'm pretty sure that the RFP for this property went out, there were proposals received, and there was nothing decided to be done.
The RFPs that were previously put out for the properties were so vague. As you said yourself, the Dingy property, we got such a wide variety. It was apples to oranges. You couldn't compare them. It's just a matter of writing it properly. I'd be curious to hear other people's opinions. I don't want to keep talking because I've already said my thoughts, but I'm still trying to see where the benefits are, other than the name of Vanderwall.
I think, I would say the benefits is input on the front end with the public.
We can still do that.
And, and the, I would say that's not front end, I would say that's back end. That's really putting the public feedback at the back end of the process. This puts it at the front end. And this model has worked in other communities. And I think Matt said it well, if you keep doing the same thing and expecting the same results, you know, that's just.
It's the definition of insanity, but I'm not asking us to do the same thing. I'm just asking us to do what we did before properly. I don't know. I'd be curious, I know Lawson has a lot of experience on RFPs like I do, so I'd be curious, you know, some of the other thoughts. I don't wanna dominate the conversation.
Well, I think
I don't know who's first.
Trina was
You know,
next.
I'm-
Trina was up.
Oh,
Okay,
thank you.
sorry.
Yeah, so looking online, the Vanderwall company looks very reputable, very experienced. I just hate throwing money out. It seems like it would be very simple for us to do the front-end work of getting a better idea of what the community would like to see in this spot. I don't know that we need to spend the 12,000 plus ahead of time. I understand that we're trying to do things different than how it went for the Dingy property, but we're having somewhat of a misunderstanding of where things went wrong with the public. It wasn't that there were too many odd choices. It was that, you know, we literally bulldozed over history. That's where things went so sour, was from the beginning. So I mean, I'm not against this fully, but I'm just not sure if it's a good use of funds.
Alder Lawson.
I kind of think we should move forward with this. And some of my reasoning is because of what happened previously. I have some of the same concerns you mentioned, Molly, but some of those same reasons are why I think we should go this way this time to see how it works out. For instance, you know, we just got trashed in the public eye because of what happened, right, with the Dingy property. You know, the council could not make the right decision. Didn't matter what decision we made, it was not going to be the right decision. So, putting this in a third party's hands with the public, I think can help mend some of that issue that we have. And also, I mean, they are experts in doing this work, so it's not like we're just handing it over to anybody. The idea of them preparing some concepts, to my understanding is it doesn't mean it has to be all one or another, right? So it could be still mixed, where you'd have duplexes and fourplexes or whatever in the property. It's just a concept, right? So if they can figure out and determining what best to go to market with and then go do that, I think another benefit is the timing. I think that'll happen much faster if we go with them at this point, because the same staff that would be working on some of this stuff are working on 1,500 other things. So if they try to take on this work as well, I'm not sure it would get done as fast. I think it's an opportunity for us to try this on a property that we think we could probably come to a decent decision on with public input, and then depending upon how that goes, decide, you know, the next one, like let's say the old Ford dealership, right, or other property that the city has. Well, did this work, or was it better doing it ourselves at that point? I don't think we have anything to compare it to, at least my experience here. I don't have anything to compare it to. So for a small amount, I think it makes sense.
Alder Lawson. Or Rosted.
I don't know why, and I'm looking right at you. Sorry about that.
You're fine. I'd have to agree with Alder Lawson, a lot of points. 12,500, it can be a lot of money, but it's also a little money for potential, a lot of gain. There's the market value with Vanderwall, in my opinion, is probably worth the 12,500 alone. That the backing they have of developers that follow them. The only question I have is, under the new purchasing policy, this is under the limit. This does not need to come to us, correct, per the new purchasing policy?
Well, there's the budgeted, and what I can tell you is, in other communities that I may have been previously employed in, there was a planning budget within each TIF, and so something like this was discussed in a staff meeting, approved, and like that was the approval process. I'm not there yet. I don't think we have 12,500 identified in TIF 7 for planning purposes. Maybe future TIF budgets will look to do things like that, but I'm also not comfortable with saying, yeah, Matt's gonna say, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna go do it without involving the council in that process.
I mean, I fully understand where everybody's opinions are. You know, the difference between success in other communities and success in our community is that, you know, you use the firms that this is what they do, and it keeps your staff moving forward on other projects. Knowing what they've done, Vanderwell has done in the past with other communities is just, and then again, you know, they've got a good rapport with developers that follow projects that they're involved with, so you're more apt to get good results out of that versus our own people doing it, so. Alder Finkler?
Have we confirmed with Vanderwall that they will do all of this for the not to exceed 12,500?
Yes.
Okay.
What's their proposal?
Oh, it is from them, sorry, I was
Yeah.
scrolled up. Sorry about that.
Any other discussion on this? You need to go to a microphone, yes. Oh, Crystal.
Well, just listening to everyone, I just wanted to give you my financial perspective from what I've been hearing and give you a little bit of feedback from that standpoint. When I look, I hate using the, 1,400 as the example, but this process is exactly, like you said, it's kind of going in the opposite starting point going into it. We did have excessive bills after the fact, doing it the way we did, not only because, we have great knowledge, but we're limited on our own education and our own knowledge, so we use our engineers, we use the attorney. And I've paid probably in excess of $20,000. So I'm thinking of that compared to 12,000, and I'm thinking, boy, this would save a lot on the other end where we find out, oh, you know what, we have this problem with the property we didn't know about, and the engineer had to tell us, and now we got a bill. So I've also been to several training seminars over the last few years where I have an opportunity to meet with other communities, just as the mayor has, and the ones who say, this is what we did, we're going this route, they say it's faster, it's quicker, they've got their money's worth out of it, everyone's happy, the community did have their involvement. They're not going to strictly say, oh, you have to do this. You know, Vandewall's gonna come back with their ideas and say it's what can be done. And that will help us, I believe, also financially in the end. So that we're not trying to say, well, this is what we really want, and then we find out later, but you can't really do that because the property layout, the property streets, the property floodplain, whatever it is. You will find out those things right up front. And I think that, to me, would be a cost savings, not an additional expense. So that's kind of my perspective in hearing what we're doing tonight. And I do recommend Vandewall. It's one of the names that comes up. Highly recommended at the meetings that I've gone to, too. So,
Thank you for that input.
sure.
Other, Rust?
Yeah, I'm not like shaming anybody at the staff level but like, that information is very pertinent
Yeah.
to the council.
Yep.
I guess I would ask, and this is the second time or third time that information of that importance has not been brought to us until we have a half-hour discussion. Come forward with it, so we have everything on the table. I get it, we don't want to air dirty laundry, but to say we spent excess of $20,000 on bills that aren't announced to people is not transparent, where this, at the $12,500 proposal, is pennies to the dollar to what we spent on the back half when we involve Paul, we involve Jason, we involve other people. That information needs to be given to us up front. It helps make a decision easier. It makes the discussion go a lot faster. 'Cause I can't speak for everybody up here, but had that been brought forward first, I think it would have moved a lot faster than coming along a full circle.
I just want to agree with Alder Rostad because I've seen this come through Plan Commission and now Committee of the Whole, and I feel like I would have saved a lot of my breath arguing the fact that we're spending more money if I would have known that piece of information. I think that was really important information to know, that it will cost us more if our staff does it versus.
I think he's tried to make the point that it's not
The reason we don't say these things is we could have this go forward, we pick a great developer, and we still end up spending a lot of money with Paul and a lot of money with Jason because that's the cost of doing business. You have to put a development agreement together, there's back and forth, there's always some utility issue that is unforeseen, unknown, and so I'm not gonna stand here and say, we're gonna save $20,000 in legal and engineering costs because we hire Vandewall, because you just don't know.
Is there any other discussion on this? Is this something we feel we can move forward with at this time? Yes, no?
We need a decision one way or the other, I guess.
Well, everybody kind of shook their heads, so we will move this forward. So, let's see. All right, next on the agenda is to move into closed session and convene to closed session per section 19.851E for deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically to discuss 103 North Ludington Street. When you make your motion, it isn't necessary to read that completely over.
Motion to move to closed session.
Second?
Okay, motion by Alder Rostad, second by Alder Finkler to move to closed session. Discussion? Roll call?
Hammer?
Aye.
Lawson?
Aye.
Reed? Aye. Finkler? Aye. Rostad?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, we are in closed session and we will not be coming back on air.